Ladies and gentlemen, Tetairoa McMillan is a Carolina Panther, and we're going to talk all about that on today's episode. How is he going to fit in Carolina, the draft fallout, all of that. Shedeur Sanders still on the board, by the way. I think another team just passed on Shedeur Sanders as we're doing this intro, but it's the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be back in 30 seconds. What is good, everyone? What is good? Welcome to the AZ Wildcats podcast. It's your boy, Kevo, a.k.a. Kevo Post on the Twitter streets, as you might know me. Cohen wants to know what color are we getting the Carolina T-Mac jersey in. We're going to get to all that and more today, but probably black, to be quite honest with you. I think the Carolina black and blue looks pretty clean. How is everybody doing? TGIF, happy Friday to everyone in the chat. I appreciate you all for tuning in today on a Friday edition of the AZ Wildcats podcast. Folks, it has been a long week. Damon is in Hawaii on a beach, relaxing, enjoying, probably a margarita or a Mai Tai or a Spam Musubi or something of the sort of the variety. And I am here in this studio talking about Tetairoa McMillan being drafted 8th overall in the first round of the NFL draft to the Carolina Panthers. Chat, I want your reactions to T-Mac going to the Panthers. How were you feeling in the moment? Were you happy about it? Were you indifferent about it? Were you upset about it? I know that Carolina was one of the destinations that I honestly didn't want T-Mac to go, mostly because I wanted him to go to an established franchise that has a foundational blueprint for success. And I don't think Carolina has that right now. I'm not saying that they can't get there. I'm not saying that they can't build that up in the meantime, but you would have loved to see him go to like a Cowboys or even the Chargers to a lesser extent there. But he is a Carolina Panther. He was very hyped to be a Carolina Panther. He walked down that long draft hallway. I thought that was very cool. I don't know what you guys in the chat thought. I thought it was very cool, the presentation of the hallway with the mirror where you could kind of like check yourself and get a little selfie and look real quick before you went out on the stage in front of the camera. And I like how they incorporated all the logos on the walls as well. Thought that was a very nice touch by the NFL. And T-Mac walks by, sees the Carolina Panther on the wall, screams at it like a lot of draftees did in excitement. And Bees, you're correct. T-Mac will be a great fit in Carolina, and Bryce does need a number one target. He has a bunch of like secondary or tertiary options, but no like true number one potential guy. And T-Mac is that guy for Bryce Young. And we're going to get into all of the fits for T-Mac later on this episode. But I wanted to start just in general with the draft experience. I think, obviously Cam Ward goes number one overall, and not too much fanfare with that. I think the biggest thing was early, at least, the Jaguars and Cleveland Browns make that massive trade that I think the Browns honestly came up on top of. And then the Jaguars take Travis Hunter, the first wide receiver and the first corner off the board in one man. And then now as Arizona fans, you're probably just on T-Mac watch. The first pick is off the board. Travis Hunter has been given a home, and now you're on T-Mac watch. And as the pick started to go, it gets to Carolina, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is a spot that T-Mac was mocked to possibly go early on in the process. Will they pull the trigger on this? Carolina had one of the worst defenses in football, I feel like, that last season. Also one of the worst offenses. But they're the 9th overall pick for a reason, y'all. But Carolina was, I think a lot of fans were clamoring for a defensive draft pick here. I think a lot of fans wanted to see the general manager kind of go with a defensive talent. And they kind of swerved some of the fan base, and they went with the greatest receiver in Arizona football history, the maybe I don't know where the draft analysts really have him in their hearts outside of all the clickbait stuff, but adios, bees. Nice to have you in the chat. I don't know where you all had T-Mac. I'm pretty sure you all had him number one. I had him number one of the receivers coming in. But no matter what, Carolina goes with the incredible, easy pick of Tetairoa McMillan. And it seemed to me that it was signifying a belief in Bryce Young and also a belief in T-Mac's talents. Because for all of the mumbo-jumbo, for all the noise going on about Tetairoa McMillan and his skill set and his work ethic and his love for football, it didn't end up mattering. He still goes top 10, 8th overall to the Carolina Panthers, becomes the 5th Arizona player to land in the top 10 of the NFL draft, joining Walt Nielsen in 1939, who went to the Giants. Obviously, Ricky Hundley, 1984 to the Bengals. Chris McAllister in 99 to the Ravens. Chris Singleton before him in 1990 to the Patriots. And now, Tetairoa McMillan, 2025 Carolina Panthers. And I think all Arizona fans reacted about the same way. Adulation and excitement for T-Mac, because his life has just changed forever, and our lives as football fans have just changed forever, because now we got to watch Carolina Panthers football. And I don't know if you guys have been watching Carolina Panthers football, but that's quite the ask. So, T-Mac, when you see us supporting you, don't forget, where you've come from, but also don't forget where you're at and what we got to do to watch your games, because Carolina, not one of my favorite franchises to watch, at least since Cam Newton departed that state over there. And I want to show you guys the scenes in Tucson for Arizona football as they celebrated this draft pick of Tetairoa McMillan. And this is what the Arizona football team's reaction was to T-Mac going 8th overall to the Panthers.
Pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Tetairoa.
Yeah, beautiful scenes there. Love to see all the boys getting hyped for T-Mac, knowing his life has just changed forever. And seeing a guy, it's important to, when you're in that locker room, right? I'm not in the locker room, but we all can apply this to our own lives, right? When you're in the spot, it's important to be able to see the mountaintop. It's important to be able to see someone ahead of you blaze a path for you to follow. And T-Mac's, obviously, we just listed 4 other Arizona players to land in the top 10 of the draft. But T-Mac's the first guy in the 2000s. The first guy this century. Is that what that is? I don't know. You get my point, though. It's important for these younger Arizona Wildcats to see a guy make it in the top 10 of the draft. I think it only helps them have a practical goal to push themselves towards and to chase. I think it's a great sign to see how well that was received. And I know you all saw Brent Brennan in there getting super hyped, because now Brent Brennan has a top 10 NFL draft pick. I don't know if y'all knew that. I don't know if y'all want to acknowledge that. But Brent Brennan now has a top 10 NFL draft pick. And Jed Fish, well, I'm sure he is sulking somewhere knowing that he probably should be able to claim T-Mac as his. But it is okay. It does not matter, because Brent Brennan and company, we're having all the fun in the world watching that happen. And I'm sure, there are some Wildcats sitting there watching that draft, imagining that next year their name could possibly be called. Eric Duthie called me out on Twitter and asked us if we could possibly preview potential Arizona Wildcats for next year's draft. And I think, Damon and I will be very down to do that once he returns from Hawaii and this offseason, even slows down a little bit even further. I think that'd be a great thing to look into, what Arizona Wildcats could be looking forward to the NFL draft next season. And yeah, like I said, the scenes were everywhere. There's Eric Duthie, bear down. And Cohen, you're right. It is so beautiful. Because, for as awful as a year last year was from a football perspective, everyone is proud of T-Mac, and everyone's been rooting for T-Mac this entire time. And through all the draft process slander, I think that can be put behind us now, especially because he is in Carolina, where a lot of that slander kind of germinated. Yeah, no, I am totally in on Carolina with T-Mac. I think it's going to be a very beautiful time. Did you see the jersey with McMillan on it? It's in the thumbnail a little bit there, and it's also on social media everywhere. He looks good with the Carolina Panthers jersey in his hands. I cannot lie to you. And it's not the only thing that was in T-Mac's hands. Him and his family were suited up and looked great. They also had their, traditional leis. I think their grandmother handmade them, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, the traditional leis were out and about for all the kind of ignorant Arizona football fans that hated the leis. That's, check mark right there for you, because T-Mac even put a lei on Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the National Football League. Got a lei put on him by Tetairoa McMillan, and I thought that was awesome. Really putting on for his home, for his culture on the biggest stage possible at this time for him, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think what we've seen with Arizona football over recent time of really solidifying that Polynesian pipeline and really appreciating that culture, I think has been beautiful. And I think T-Mac and his family bringing that culture to the NFL draft was a really nice story and a really nice way to, continue to perpetuate that culture even further and really give people a better appreciation for it beyond just, why is Brent Brennan wearing a bunch of flowers around his neck? I think it really enhances the ability for people to look further and understand a little deeper about the meaning of the lei and the significance of the lei and why it is important to keep that on after Tetairoa McMillan's grandmother gifts it to you, right? But Brent Brennan, Roger Goodell, they were not the only ones to get a lei put on them by Tetairoa McMillan. T-Mac recently arrived in Carolina, and the scenes were awesome. We're going to break down this clip after, but I'm setting up this clip of T-Mac arriving and meeting with Dave Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, and also a bunch of new T-Mac fans. So let's see T-Mac arrive and put a lei on Dave Tepper. So there you have it. Tetairoa McMillan meeting with all of Dave Tepper and his family. There was a beautiful scene, him putting the lei on Tepper. And also, I don't know if y'all peeped that, but just the T-Mac chants that were being unleashed out there were incredible. And it was a beautiful sight to see. I cannot wait to see the overall fan reaction of T-Mac in Carolina in general. I think it has been surprising to me to see how much juice T-Mac has with the fans. I think once you get outside your Arizona bubble, it can be pretty hard to understand like what people do care about and don't care about in relation to your school. And so I didn't really know how, to use a wrestling term, over T-Mac was with fans. I didn't know how much fans really were moved by this pick, this selection in the NFL draft. And I will say that hearing the T-Mac chants get that loud that early, pretty encouraging sign, considering he has yet to even take the field for the Carolina Panthers. And I think when you look at, the fan reception versus some of the analysts trying to poo-poo him over the course of the last couple weeks, it really shows that the tape does speak for itself. When T-Mac was asked about, when T-Mac was asked about the recent criticism from Todd McShay, he kind of echoed similar sentiment of hey, he literally said they're tripping, but he did say like the tape kind of speaks for itself. You put on the tape, and that's just kind of what it is. He doesn't really have to do the talking. His work does the talking for itself. And I think that's kind of the story of this whole offseason for T-Mac, right? The false narratives, the overthinking, the overanalyzation of his game, people trying to poke holes in what he has accomplished and what he has achieved at Arizona, only to not really, talk about the tape. They're talking about tape from his freshman year. They're talking about tape from his sophomore year. T-Mac is a totally different player than he was when he stepped on Arizona's campus for the first time, and that is not something that I needed to tell any of you. That is obvious. And I think that seeing that really, truly cements to me that what sometimes happens in the pre-draft process does not really, truly matter. Is a lot of it sometimes can be smokescreens. One of my first thoughts when I was watching the draft and T-Mac gets selected by the Panthers, and you think to yourself, like, who are some of the Panthers all-time greats? And you get to talking Cam Newton, and then you land on Steve Smith Sr. And you're like, oh my God, whatever happened with Steve Smith? And you're like, oh my God, he's been criticizing Bobby Wade and T-Mac for months now. And you're like, how is that going to work out? And I started thinking to myself, one, that is objectively hilarious that he ends up in a place where his number one detractor throughout this entire process isn't just going to be right up the road now all the time, maybe even in the facility. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. I also think it's going to be very interesting to see, if we do get any walking back of those comments once T-Mac hits the field, and if it looks great, what Steve Smith will say about that, if he will even acknowledge how great it looks. So that is interesting. And then I also wanted to raise a quick question to the chat and to the Arizona Sphere in general. Do we think that the Steve Smith, Bobby Wade, Tetairoa McMillan controversy, and not on T-Mac's part, mostly on Steve Smith and the Panthers' part, do we think it was a covert op the whole time? Are we sure that Steve Smith, Dave Canales and the boys in Carolina, Dave Tepper as well, weren't just plotting this, weren't just saying, hey, Steve, look, we know you have a social media following. We know people, listen to sometimes what you have to say about specifically receivers because of your experience and everything that you've accomplished. Why don't you just kind of trash this kid? Because we want Tetairoa McMillan in a Carolina Panthers jersey, and we think that the Jacksonville Jaguars might take him, or we think that so-and-so might take him. We need him to fall to number 8 so that we can select him with our first round draft pick. And I was thinking about it, and I love a good conspiracy, and this is such a juicy one that I think I'm going to dig into it. I'm not saying it's true. This is a conspiracy theory, but wouldn't it be funny? See, Espo says the call came from inside the house. Exactly. I think that it might be true. Andy says it was a work, to use a wrestling term. I think it might have been a work, Andy. I think we might be some marks for believing that Steve Smith could not see the talent right in front of him. Tinfoil hat. I've achieved tinfoil hat club status. This is a huge moment in the history of this podcast, chat. This tinfoil hat has come up with multiple conspiracies. All good. And this is mine right now, that Steve Smith, you see the hat, and you know what you did. You faked the conspiracy to make sure that my guy, our guy, because you know what it is, ended up on your team. And so, yeah, that's my conspiracy, chat, is that Tetairoa McMillan became a Carolina Panther because all this negative talk started with Steve Smith. It all germinates from that little podcast he did and the little retort that he did after that against Bobby Wade. Because what did Bobby Wade ever do to him? What did T-Mac ever do to him? Absolutely nothing. So I think that chat is where I tip my hat to you and say, maybe let's do some research into what exactly, can we get some text message receipts or something for this? And Erika in the chat, sadly not on the stream because of technical difficulty today, but Erika says, damn, Bees is ducking me. And that's true. Bees literally did hop in just to say what's up. And then as soon as Erika left her Mercury podcast, which after you finish watching this podcast, go catch up with the Mercury podcast if you weren't there at 11 a.m. because Erika, Steven in studio, what else do you need? Really, what else do you need? That could feed families. Nay, that could feed generations. But on the other side of this break, we are going to discuss more about T-Mac's fit in Carolina, and we also have some news and notes from around Arizona athletics to hit at the end of the show. Don't you go anywhere. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Sanderson Ford, our friends over at Sanderson Ford are doing employee pricing. It's huge news from David Kimmerly, president of America's most awarded Ford dealership, Sanderson Ford. Employee pricing levels the playing field for Ford dealers as everyone gets the same set price. However, other dealers will add addendums and add-ons and all this nonsense so they can really make up the discount that they're giving you. But Sanderson Ford will not do that. Choose Sanderson because they have an inventory of 70 years of reputation of treating you right Ford is undeniably the most America-first automaker in the world. 80% of vehicles Ford sells are assembled in factories located in America that will be less affected by everything that's going on in our economy right now. Now is the best time to buy a new Ford with From America, For America employee pricing. This excludes 2025 Expeditions, 2025 Super Duties, Raptors, Mustang, and Bronco specialty vehicles. Make sure to check out our friends over at Sanderson Ford. They do the best work in all of car sales. Also, if you are looking to upgrade your floor, head over to our friends over at Empire Flooring, because Empire Flooring, we all need a good floor to walk on. We need a clean floor to walk on. We need a sturdy floor to walk on, and that is everything Empire today can offer you. Just like T-Mac is going to be missing his home court advantage now that he's not in Arizona, you need your own home court advantage every time you step foot through your front door. Empire today has flooring experts dedicated to flooring who are focused on making sure that you get the best and most out of your flooring. Empire today lives and breathes flooring, and they will give you everything you need to make the right decision every step of the way. Flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. If you pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space, you can see how it looks with their visualizer. They will make sure that you are happy with the color combination in your home. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners can receive a $350 discount when using code PHNX. Yes, you heard me correct. $350 discount. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHNX for full details. Well, chat, we have a lot more to discuss about this Tetairoa McMillan to the Panthers situation, and I want to start with something kind of fun, kind of funny. Xavier Legette and Tetairoa McMillan will be in the same locker room. How long, ETA, guesstimate, how long until we get a social media video of Xavier Legette on his farm feeding Tetairoa McMillan a squirrel? I'll let you think on it. I'll let it ruminate. How long until we get that? Because I need that video in my life. That, you know how hard I'm going to laugh watching T-Mac make an inquisitive face at Xavier Legette as he's talking about nonsense. I truly need that video in my life, chat, as Xavier Legette is a wild boy, and T-Mac is a much more laid back kind of style dude. He's not really, I don't think T-Mac is really a farm kind of guy, to be quite frank with you. I don't really think T-Mac is an outdoorsy kind of dude. I could be wrong about all of that. I could, be totally off base. He could be, the most outdoorsy guy. But seeing T-Mac on a farm with Xavier Legette, I think, could be the content that we all need on a bad day. If we're having a bad day, it could bring a smile to your face. Kind of like looking at puppies. I feel like watching Xavier Legette farm would give the same level of endorphins. Also, just straight up, Bryce Young to T-Mac could be really fun. We've seen Bryce Young show signs of improvement since his very underwhelming rookie season. And it caused some doubts among many Panthers fans, among many NFL fans, as to whether Bryce Young could be a guy that's worthy of his place in the draft where he was taken. And when you look at what he was able to do last year, kind of piecing together successful moments here and there with I'll say less than ideal set of targets, you must think that getting a guy like T-Mac would totally change everything for a guy like Bryce Young. Finally having a number one guy, finally having a deep threat, finally having a red zone threat that you can not only trust but also believe in, I think is massive. I think it's huge. And I think that it is something that when you're talking about T-Mac's potential and you're talking about Bryce Young's potential, that now it is intertwined, that now it is overlapped, that now these things can truly be, a reality for Bryce Young. His success can be a reality with a number one guy like T-Mac. And also, we do have a special guest today. I know I teased it all stream. I know I teased it on social media as well, but I was unsure if we were going to get her on the show today because she's a busy woman. She has her own podcast. She has her own stuff to talk about. But Erika Day is here in studio. Erika's in studio. Took Damon's spot. How are we feeling, Erika?
Is it okay if I bark in studio too?
Sure.
Or I'm so excited to be here.
welcome back to the pod, Erika. How are we feeling? I will get your thoughts. I'll ask you first. Thoughts on T-Mac eating squirrel with Xavier Legette?
Listen, I actually have one thing to say about the NFL draft, and you can go over to the PHNX Mercury show where I was also complaining about the same thing. Why do the first pick get 10 minutes to choose something that they've had like 5.5 months to ponder? This is ridiculous. I was raging. I'm sitting here, I'm waiting for T-Mac and, hopefully Tyler Luke to be drafted. Those are the only two names I really cared about. And here I am having to suffer through 7 minutes of a pick that does not matter. You knew who you were going to pick for the last 5 months, and now here we are, and we all have to wait. It's actually baloney.
It is.
That's the kind way I can say that.
I mean, I will say the answer to all your questions is money. I think, like, you got to be able to sell ads. You got to be able to do your little, like, imagine if a person like Shane, head of production somewhere, couldn't do a creative vignette before every pick. That would eat him alive. So you gotta give people the chance to do their little additional add-ons and addendums. But yeah, Erika, your reaction to T-Mac going to the Panthers. I know you're not the biggest NFL person, but you are a big T-Mac person.
I also like Bryce Young, so I was feeling #blessed. I'm like, this is a great pick. You got a young quarterback that with a lot to prove. I think I watched that video of them talking to Bryce about it, and like when you have that excitement from your quarterback about a receiver, and I mean, to my knowledge, it seems as he can be receiver option 1 on this team, which like I think is excellent. Like, give him as many reps as possible in year 1. Get him ready for a long, long career in the NFL. So I like the fit. I know a lot of people were complaining about it, but me personally, I'm excited to watch him with Bryce Young, and just how excited the Panthers organization has been to have him so far is just so refreshing. They're not getting his nickname wrong. They're the chants in the streets, I mean, almost brought me to tears. And I had
the chants were insane.
I had to get ready for the Mercury show, and I'm like, hold the tears in, Erika. Don't cry to this video. Like, please don't cry. But seriously, like, that's so cool. And, they've just done such a good job of welcoming him with open arms. So I can't be more excited for, his future in the NFL. I just think he's got a really, really long career. And like Cohen said in the chat, short king QBs with T-Mac, it just makes sense, Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
That's a great pull from our guy Cohen. That's why Cohen is a legend to this game. Making the comparison between Bryce Young and Noah Fafita. I don't think anyone's ever done that. And Cohen, you can say you were the first to utter those words. Probably on Earth. You might be the first person on planet Earth to ever have said that exact sentence and imply exactly what you just did. Yeah. Stephen Weiss says, Erika scared all us Merc fam. What happened on the Mercury podcast?
I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but, again, I was complaining about the 10-minute first pick. Like, it's egregious. Like, what do you mean you get 10 minutes to choose? And when you compare it to the WNBA, they only have 9 days in between the last game of the season and the first draft pick, and they get 3 minutes, and, the NFL has 5.5 months in between the last game of their, college season and then the first round pick or first, overall pick. And it took the Titans, 7 minutes to come up. And obviously, it's mandated, whatever. But, like, come on. Like, I have things to do. I had movies to watch, Grizzlies to watch lose. And
I will say, though,
holding me back.
I will say, like, the draft is something you can watch on mute.
Yeah, but I don't like to do that. I want to hear and make fun of them.
I was watching it on mute and watching our Cardinals draft, like, watch along situation. Like, I had a 2-monitor watch along situation going on. Johnny Venerable and Bo Brock's insane analytical brains, and then I also had the source material.
And Johnny and Bo did kill it yesterday. If you guys haven't watched that video, you need to tap in. Like, they were actually eating the girls up yesterday for the NFL draft.
Left and 8 and left no crumbs. I will say that. But yeah, Erika, I want to, you and I have a lot to talk about in terms of women's basketball, and I want to give you the floor to do that because you haven't been on the pod in a second to talk about women's basketball. But I do want to wrap up. No, exactly. No, literally, that is very true, Steven. When we do like watch-alongs like that, that's the best way to do it. Erika even leaves PHNX running for her pet while she's gone. So to make sure that the pet you got to know ball. The pet has to know ball, and that is incredible right there. Real quick, I want to talk to you all about T-Mac's message to DBs. I thought this was awesome. What would your statement be to DBs who are going to have to guard you in the league? T-Mac said buckle up, and I love that. I love that about T-Mac. I just love everything about T-Mac. And yeah, buckle up is true because everyone's been trying to downplay this man all summer. And now you're really going to get it in the fall when he's done putting all this work in and he shows up and, as Noah Fafita says, is the best rookie in the NFL.
Dude had insane aura yesterday. I mean, just diabolical aura, plaguing through the Lowe's living rooms of the draft, you know. It was just insane to watch how much aura he had yesterday. And then when the pick came out, it just, like, maximized by, like, 95%. So, yeah, DBs, y'all need to watch out. Like, that's it. That's the end of the story. So I'm really excited to watch him with the Panthers. They might convert me into an NFL fan.
Wow.
Panthers.
Wow.
Catch me in a Panthers jersey next year. I can't make it. And
the Panthers bringing you, I guess it's really T-Mac, but I'm just going to make a joke of you right now because the Panthers being the thing that brings you to the NFL, you might be the first person ever.
You know, and that's okay. It's fine to have unique reasons to pull for teams, you know? So I'm okay with it. I've never owned an NFL jersey, so now it'll be him, and then hopefully, you know, Mr. Loop makes a squad here because that would be my secondary.
Do the Panthers need a kicker?
Right.
Do the Panthers need a kicker?
Then my team. I only have to have one team. That would be so amazing. So God, it could not work out better for me if that happened. So, do the Panthers need a kicker? Someone let us know that in the chat.
Yeah. But yeah, I before you got on, I mentioned the possibility of the Steve Smith thing just being a play this whole time and a work, as me and Andy were saying. I know you're familiar with it as well, but I'll leave that to the side for now. T-Mac moves from Wildcat to Panther, from Noah to Bryce, from the likes of Chris Hunter to the likes of Xavier Legette and Adam Thielen. And so, yes, we're all very happy for T-Mac. But there are some people out there that just don't get it. And they're never going to get it. Some people out there confuse their lefts from their rights. And that's okay if that's one of you. Some people out there confuse, their colors. But one thing you can't confuse is ASU and U of A. And the amount of people that consistently get this wrong is insane. The amount of people that are paid to get things right that still get this wrong are insane. ESPN had a graphic last night, a little lower third, kind of like how we have our tear here at the bottom, of all of the players, right, in the top 10, I think, or something like that, next to their team's logo. It was like Ashton Jainty next to the Boise State logo. It was Cam Ward next to Miami, Travis Hunter next to Colorado, and it was Tetairoa McMillan. No, not next to the Block A. Next to ASU's logo. And that was the first mistake. Correct. That was the first mistake. The second mistake was not made by the ESPN network. It was made by Ian Rappaport, who tweeted this, later edited and deleted it. With plenty of trade options, the Panthers stick and pick. They select number 8, ASU star receiver Tetairoa McMillan, T-Mac. At least he got T-Mac right. It would have been the ultimate dagger if he had said ASU star wide receiver Tet. That would have been awful. But this is insane, and another list of long amounts of people who have gotten it mixed up. And honestly, you can't mix this up with the top 10 pick. I feel like the same thing you said about the number 1 overall pick, how you have so long to agonize over these things. You have so long to watch the highlights of T-Mac. At no point is he playing for Arizona State.
It's just blatantly disrespectful to him and, to not get it right. Like, dude's the 8th overall pick, that means something. And to sit there and just blatantly disrespect him by putting just the wrong school it's egregious. And, ESPN really should be ashamed of themselves for that. Like, I was asking Steven before our Mercury pod, like, do the Suns get the same level of disrespect that other Arizona, teams get? Because it seems to me that ASU and U of A just cannot seem to be respected by, national media. And I'm grown tired of it. Our good friend Eric actually put together a petition, so head over to his Twitter account because there's a petition going around to make sure that, these folks know who the real ASU and the real U of A is, because it's just exactly, they do it on purpose at this point. It's disgusting.
It's gross, and I don't really understand it. And I think it doesn't really happen with Missouri and Missouri State, I guess because of Mizzou or whatever. But it doesn't really happen with Colorado and Colorado State.
Even Iowa State. I feel like I don't see that.
Never. Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable when you look at it, because it seems like once every season for basketball, once every season for football, and then once every off season, you have some incredible screw-up where you have the wrong logo or the wrong title for the team in there. Yeah, I saw that last night. I think it was actually, shout out to Luke Zeman in the chat, who I think brought that to my attention last night in the Discord. And if you're not in our Discord, what are you doing? You have to become a diehard to be in the Discord. It's the first link in our chat or our description. But become a diehard, get in that Discord, because you could be some of the first people on this juicy gossip like Luke was, and he made us aware of it. And now we're making all you aware of it. So thank you, Luke. Thank you to the chat. If you are in the chat, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I believe we are almost at 40K. So please, we are trying to get there. We are trying to push for that. We want that to happen for us. More NFL draft news. T-Mac's not the only guy that's going to get drafted from Arizona in this draft. Big Jonah Savaiinaea will also be taken off the board. Likely early today. I was talking to Spears about this. We don't really see Big Jonah lasting too long into the second round. He was kind of a borderline first round guy anyway. Some people had him at the tail end of it. Some people had him in the middle of the second. So it feels like he will go in the first 10 picks of the second round. I'm excited. Potentially a Lions player, potentially a Colt. We will see where he ends up. Tyler Loop, you and I were talking about this, Erika. I don't really care where Tyler Loop goes. I just want Tyler Loop to go somewhere.
Agreed.
And I want it to be...
Nick, where's T-Mac's CFP berth?
That was nasty, Shane.
Well, don't comment that. Don't comment stupid things.
That was nasty.
It's okay. Scott is still sitting at home.
Yeah,
It's a
Scott-
bit of a reminder.
I don't think Scott even made the green room.
Wait, yeah. Scott was left at home.
Scott didn't order a suit.
That's what I'm saying. Don't compare
Did
draft
Scott get a
positions.
suit?
That's insane.
Shane, did he get a suit, though?
Shane's eating.
He didn't get a suit, confirmed.
Shane's eating. But yeah, the rivalry here in the office is alive and well, as you can tell. But I don't know where to go from that. Shane's unhinged. Usually Shane doesn't get caught off guard like that. I feel like usually Shane is on the hinges. But yeah.
He interrupted me on the Mercury show to flame, and just bring up nonsense about ASU for fun. So, he's really on one today. I think he's feeling a little bitter that he didn't get drafted or something. I don't know. So
Great question, Cohen.
Yeah.
This is a great question. Does Krosky Merritt surprise and go tonight? I totally forgot to mention that, and when I was doing all this, when I was doing my prep for today's show, I kind of forgot to take into account that Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt could very well go off the board today, and there could be 4 Arizona Wildcats drafted in total. But as I was saying, I just want Tyler Loop to go somewhere. How fun would that be to watch Tyler Loop kick in the NFL? Krosky Merritt, also another, for different reasons, incredible story at Arizona, I feel like, because it's just, you don't often see a guy get given eligibility and then have it taken from him after one game and then still make the league as a guy that was already on the fringe.
Yeah. Eric
Yeah.
He is correct. JCM being picked up before Scout, it would be complete cinema.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Is that realistic though?
Can they write books about that if it happens?
Is that realistic though? I feel like as much as I love JCM, and as much as I love JCM,
So that's the comparison. Running back. It's a position. Compare running back.
Shane's asking us to compare running backs,
I
chat.
got heated today. My goodness.
Shane's just on one. Shane loves ball. So, like, this is draft time. So, Shane's, like, peaking. Like Seattle baseball's going on. Like,
I actually
everything.
don't love ball. I love stupid people.
Shane woke up and chose violence today. Anyway, though, JCM being picked up before Scott would be cinema. I don't know if it's realistic, though, because of Scott's like a household. Like, people, there's hype there. You know what I mean? There's a clicks aspect to it. I'm not saying that he's just clicks, but I'm saying, like, you have more eyes on Scott than you do on JCM, regardless. So, yeah. Jacob says, put that on a T-shirt, Shane. Honestly, that T-shirt does kind of rip. What did he say? Like, I don't love ball. I just hate stupid people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does kind
That's
of.
a diehard shirt right there.
That is a diehard shirt right there. Yeah. So we can. I think we can move on unless you had anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of T-Mac, JCM, Tyler Loop, or Big Jonah. We hope that Big Jonah and JCM go off the board today. Hopefully Tyler Loop as well. And yeah, hopefully they don't say any of our players are from ASU anymore because they already messed it up with the biggest one they had. So, yeah.
No, I mean, can they mess up any worse than they already have at this point? So
No.
I saw Cohen up in the comments say that he hopes that, when Scat gets drafted, let me not say if and disrespect my guy there, but when Scat gets drafted, the only thing that's right is just throw up a big block A right next to him.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
That would be fair. That
Get
would
the
be
lick back.
turnabout fair play.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think, they can make it up to us. It's not that hard.
Yeah, turnabout fair play. I think that would be a very good way to get the ASU fans back. Erika, it's not the reason we brought you on the show. We brought you on the show because you're Erika Day, and this is what you do. And we're both in studio, and so you have to be on the show. But I would be remiss to not utilize your women's basketball expertise to talk a little bit about Arizona women's basketball here in the last 20 minutes of the show. I want to set you up quick by kind of asking you to recap everything, your takes since the last time you came on here. And then also, I wanted to, before we get into Arizona stuff, Malaysia Full Wiley is an LSU Tiger.
I had like 6 text messages, and you know what's the funniest thing about this? I'm so excited because personally, I love when there's juicy stuff that happens that I have no dog in the fight. I really don't even have to pay attention. I just wait for the ESPN notification to come out, and then I party with everybody else. But when you have Malaysia Full Wiley, arguably one of the most polarizing players in women's basketball right now, whether you love her or hate her, I love her. I think she's amazing. But when you have her saying, I'm not going to LSU, and then, 3 days later is committing to LSU.
She said that?
Yes. Yes, she did. I've got TikTok comments. She said she wasn't even visiting LSU. So,
did the bag increase?
You have to ask yourself about the situation there. And so, I will say this. I'll be interested to see when that next portal window happens over the summer, if LSU loses a couple guards, maybe one in particular that Arizona fans might be more familiar with than others, see if one of those guards leaves as a result of Malaysia joining that squad. So there is another portal window coming up. I obviously don't think it'll be as, loud as this window was, because this is the loudest window of the year. We have 1,600 players into the portal for women's basketball. That's an insane number. But, Malaysia is a get, and so I'm really curious to see if that certain Arizona guard enters the portal in the summertime. That would be very juicy. So, and I don't have the dog in that fight either anymore, so I'd be remiss to just sit back and watch. I'm so excited. This could all play out so well for me personally that, we are so up.
We are indeed up. Women's basketball is on fire right now. I will say Becky Burke has also been on fire recently. Erika doing all of the things, being everywhere, not eating meals unless they're with recruits. All of the things Becky Burke has been doing. Can you talk to me now that her roster is a little bit more solidified? You have the official announcements of Nora Francois, Mago's return to Tucson. The list continues. What are your thoughts on Becky Burke's roster as it is currently instituted?
Obviously, she still needs more pieces. And, I don't want to, scream too loud about that. But, yes, there is another portal window over the summer. At least there was last year. So, anyways, to me, I got a couple of messages about the Tucson native, Mago, and I hope I say that correctly. But
I also hope I say that correctly.
Yeah, I'm sorry ahead of time. You follow the show, Miss Girl. So if you are watching the show, hey, girl, we're super excited to have you in Tucson. But that said, she's 6'7", and size is really hard to come by in women's basketball across the board right now, whether you're professional or in college. Size is really, really sought after. And, we've already on this show talked about Becky's ability to do more with less. And, I had a couple of people reach out to me about this player from Tucson not exactly being, the most skilled player. But at the end of the day, you've got a coach that has historically done more with less and coached her players up to be better than they were before they came to her. And, you've got a player that's 6'7". And Becky's coached guard-heavy lineups. And so I don't have as much concern about the big needing to be as dominant as maybe it needs to be on other teams, because I think she is going to play guard-heavy basketball. And I think it's obvious with the roster that she's at least putting together in year one. She might be forced a little bit to do that, at least in year one. And maybe she learned some lessons in year one of being in the Power Four and, switches it up next year. But I think this year in particular, she's going to have to play a little bit of small ball. I think she's going to be very reliant on Michaela Purdue. I think, if nothing else, then thank you, Kobe, for that snippet about the second portal window. I'm going to have to confirm and get back with you guys on Twitter about that because I don't believe that. But anyways, yeah, I mean, Michaela Purdue, she's a type of player that can go out and get hers. And I think that's exactly what Becky Burke, when I asked her at her introductory presser about, what's your blueprint for, the perfect player you're looking for in the portal, I think the go out and get it is exactly what she was looking for. And she got that in Michaela Purdue. And so I think, it's a huge draw to be able to play with a player that can score at high volume like she can. And I think it's just going to be an interesting lineup that she's putting together. The one question I do have is that she did not bring her entire coaching staff with her from Buffalo. So I think, basing what we're expecting to see this year on what we've seen in the last 3 years at Buffalo is kind of, null and void because, she's left all of her assistants with the exception of one at home. And so, I think we'll see a unique style of basketball from her this year. And I think, again, she's going to lean very heavily into the guard play that she's going to have on her roster. But I think, she's going to have a competitive team in the Big 12 this year. I feel very confident in saying that. And, before the hire happened, I didn't think that I could be confident in saying that moving into year one with a brand new coach post-Adia Barnes. So I'm really impressed with what she's been able to do in the portal. And then as far as hiring and coaching, when you are hiring Lou Olson's granddaughter, you've made the entire city of Tucson happy. And my number one biggest question with Becky Burke hire is, are they going to be able to keep all of those season ticket holders happy?
Yep.
And so I think when you go out and you hire Lou Olson's granddaughter, you might have even added new season ticket holders that never even would have considered going to women's basketball games. And so, I'm glad that they're tapping into a new part of the community because I think that's exactly what they've done by hiring her. And I think, having her on the sidelines as a more assistant coach role, which is what we've learned in the last week or so, I think, lends itself to the conversation of this team is going to be really well coached. And so I don't think it's a question about if they're going to be well coached. I think it's just a question of how the players take it. I think there's been a shift in dynamic with coaches and players over the last couple of years just because of the portal and money and all this, that, and the other. But I think, the type of players that Becky has been recruiting want to be coached and they want to get better. And so when you have that on your team and you have those players with dog mentality, I think contending is built in. And I don't mean contending for a national championship, but, top 6 in the Big 12, I think is a reasonable feat. Like, they could easily be sliding into that 6th spot, maybe even get a bye in the Big 12 tournament, and then we're looking at a tournament berth again. Like,
Ooh.
So, talk to me nice. I know, for real. I didn't want to go to the WBIT. Are we serious? So I'm excited. I really, really am excited.
When you break all that down, there's a lot to go into there. I kind of just want to let it stand on its own but I do want to go to the assistant coaching thing. Becky Burke did pick Ashley Odom as an associate head coach recently. Spent time with Texas Tech the last 5 years. Has experience in the Big 12 and Power 4 recruiting experience in general. I understand that she did leave a lot of her staff with her in Buffalo, but when you look at the people that she's bringing on, like you alluded to, what we're kind of getting at, in addition to what you were saying, is Becky Burke is also adding credibility to her staff. Like when you look at what pitches her staff can give to recruits, it's a lot of like, hey, I've worked with Diana Taurasi. It's a lot of like, hey, I've worked at the highest level of college basketball. It's a lot of, hey, I've played in the like. There's so many different people on that bench that can be able to speak to the goals that these women want to reach on this basketball team. So I think that she's done a great job of creating credibility, legitimacy, and also some hometown value, some brownie points with that staff. We keep talking about it. This has been a very pro Becky Burke podcast so far in her tenure. It feels like she just keeps hitting home runs. And it feels like she's just Devin Nets out there, striking out people left and right and then going to the plate and hitting home runs. It really feels like Becky Burke is killing it. But when you look at, and I know we haven't seen it on the court yet, but in your personal opinion, how much of the talent from the mid-major level players do you think will carry over into a conference as tough as the Big 12?
Well, I think that's the interesting piece there, right? Where, we think about Trey Townsend and what we saw from him at the beginning of basketball season was not exactly the most enjoyable thing to watch on our television screens.
Womp womp.
But that said, it did get better, and I think, you can expect this team, and what I'm expecting is that for this team to consistently get better week after week. I'm not looking for them to come out in week 1 in non-conference schedule when they're playing God knows who and God knows where. and be, the best team since sliced bread. But what I am looking for is that they're not losing games to teams that they shouldn't be losing to in the non-conference. I'm looking at UNAU and GCU. So I'm looking for them to win games that they should and be in position to do well in the Big 12. And again, just improve week after week. I don't think that continuity is going to be a problem with this team in the same way that we've seen Adia Bond's rosters over the years. I think we're going to see players stay a little bit longer and get developed, because I think with Becky, that is part of the sell, is the development piece of it. And maybe not necessarily freshmen, coming in fresh out of high school, but, sophomore transfers out of a mid-major, junior transfers out of a mid-major. I think those are going to be the type of blue chip players that Becky brings into Tucson that really make a difference and really go a long way in the long run for the type of basketball that she wants to play. I think, I think Michaela Purdue will be the first big test, but I think that hometown kid is as much of a test as anything else, just because, again, it goes back to how hard it is to find size and how much she has been able to do less with more. The assistant coach that you just talked about is coming with her from Texas Tech.
Ashley Odom.
Right. And so, you have to hope that, in some realm of possibility, maybe some of the time, at least, hopefully, that player's development was with Ashley Odom. And so that continuity piece comes, from Texas Tech. Like you said, you've got Texas ties, Big 12 recruiting. Like, it's a hard knock world out there. But I think when you look at her taking in these mid-major kids, I think it's going to be something you continue to see with her, where she's able to take blue chip kids out of the big majors and make something out of them. And so I think Michaela Purdue will be the first test, but I don't think it'll be the last test.
Friend of the show, Michaela Purdue.
Facts.
Yes.
Big liker of our tweets, by the way. Shout out to Michaela.
Oh, yeah, nice. See, Erika's so tapped in with that kind of stuff. I am much more of I'll check all my notifications. I do it quite religiously, but I am much more of like a set it and forget it kind of dude. Like, I don't really look and see who exactly likes it unless it catches my eye. Erika knows someone recently caught my eye as that they liked my tweets, not in like a weird way, but it was just someone of note that liked to tweet about them on my page, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Kevin's like a boyfriend telling a girlfriend like a story that she doesn't like. Them. I'm like, you don't want to give any hints. Oh.
Yeah, all the pronouns go away. It's just because they them. Everyone's they them in a story like that. But yeah, no, like I was saying, Michaela Purdue is going to be one of those tests, right? And I'm honestly looking at Nora Francois as well. Like, you're talking about bigs. Espo says you could say it. It was me. I mean, Espo is a liker of our tweets. It could be Espo. But anyway, point being, Michaela Purdue is going to be one of those tests. I'm looking at Nora Francois as well. You spoke to how size is difficult to come by. Nora Francois is one of those players on this roster that's going to be expected to utilize a little bit more of her size this upcoming next season. But coming from a school like the University of New Orleans, skill is skill. Hoop is hoop. But I do think that there is a point that you reach to where it's like how high of a jump up in competition is too much to expect. Kobe, everybody likes your tweets. I don't know why you're in our chat lying. Everyone likes your tweets. Everybody in this chat probably likes your tweets specifically.
Kobe, we even retweet your tweets. What do you want from us? Like, what? Oh my. These people, you can never please men. Nick, do I not sound good? I'm sorry, Mr. Nick. I'll let Kevin know next time that his production quality needs to go up.
Yeah, we got you, Nick. Nick, it's we do what we can, but sometimes
we didn't get to do a mic check. To be fair,
we didn't. Yeah,
I was in a completely different room.
Erika wasn't supposed to do Merc until 1 p.m. and Erika did Merc at 11 a.m. today, so
things got a little hairy around here. But that's okay.
A little hairy. Got the razor out, shaved down the arms. You know what I'm saying? And now Erika is on the show. Yeah, but Kobe, everyone likes your tweets. I'll leave that at that. You are a very funny guy on social media. But I was saying, I think like when you're talking about specifically the bigs, I think I feel like you really can just go out and get guards from anywhere. Like, I think you can find guards anywhere. I'm not saying that the best guards are everywhere, but you get my point. You can find fitting guards for what you want to do on a basketball court just about anywhere, I feel like, in women's basketball. But like you said, with bigs, it is so much harder to do, to find a big that's effective, skilled, and can actually stay on the court, right? Like, Brea Cunningham, for everything that she is amazing at, can't do it if she's not on the court, right? So I think it's going to really rely on the bigs for Arizona women's basketball this season and their level of skill. Are they Big 12 quality? We will see. I think it's less on the guards because, again, I think that if Michaela Purdue is who we think that she is, there should just be supplementary roles for a lot of guards. So, yeah, right now, what do you think is the biggest need for Arizona women's basketball as we head further into the offseason?
The need is still another big, is the reality of that situation. And who that is going to be is a really good question. I've spoken about it at length. Just because you're in the portal doesn't mean you have to have a home by a certain time. Literally, it can be August 1st and they don't necessarily have to have a home. So, but at the end of the day, they're going to need some size. And, they have a 6'1", I want to say, forward, and is it Freddie Wallace, I want to say, is 6'1". And so it's not quite the size that you're looking for, especially when you're coming off the likes of Ray Cunningham, but like I said, 6'7" is the hometown kid that they just got, and I hate that I have to look up her name to be correct.
Tetairoa McMillan.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to really say the first name, so I've just been saying McMillan, but I also don't know if I'm saying the last name right either.
Maybe we should get her on the show, just so
I'm down.
Get the name pronunciation out of the way. We need a guide, is all I'm saying. I don't like guessing if I'm spelling their name right or saying their name right, so I need a pronunciation guide. University of Arizona PR, if you're listening, please.
They do those. They definitely do those.
Send them out. I'm waiting. I can't wait until next season to get that. You know what I mean?
They definitely do that often, I think. I think most players, a lot of media guides have that for you.
But the player we haven't spoken about yet, and the biggest question mark, actually, in my opinion, on this team right now is Cameron Kitchen. No minutes at Virginia, but top 100 kid on ESPNW list coming out of high school. She's got some decent size, and she was very competitive in high school. And the stinky thing about this is that I don't think that anyone can depend on a high schooler anymore. I think, 3 years ago, you could depend on a freshman coming out of high school. But I think, unfortunately, right now, I don't think that that's the name of the game. And so she's never played in a Power 5, college basketball game. So I think she's the biggest question mark. But I think she could also be the biggest solution to all the problems we've kind of listed on this show so far. In that, she could kind of switch around and play some different positions is what I kind of envisioned with her. Whether that's the truth or not is yet to be seen, but I think, she's a piece that could plug and pull and answer some of the problems around the squad. So, I'm sorry about the mic troubles, everybody. I'm trying to yell a little louder.
It's okay. Yeah, no. You see, when things are just, happening very fast sometimes, some things just happen, and it's okay. But we're happy to have Erika on the pod today. That is what really matters, is that Erika is here and that you get her takes, because they're all over Twitter, but it just hits different on the pod. It just hits different on the pod. Erika, anything you would love to mention that you have not mentioned with your free time on today's pod? I'm going to give you the floor here at the end of the show to do your thing.
Listen, I spoke at length about how much I wanted Bryce Cunningham and Jada Williams on this team before they got here, before they committed here, after they've committed here. I've wanted them. The reason I wanted them is because they played high school basketball together at La Jolla Country Day in Southern California. Another piece of that puzzle at La Jolla Country Day was this girl named Savaiinaea Sugapong.
Ooh, what a name! What a name!
I know. Put her in the Hall of Names real quick. Savaiinaea is a shooter, a damn good shooter at that, and I saw on Instagram stories yesterday that she was in town with Brea and Jada. Whether that means she's on a visit to this university is, yet to be known. But I'm serious when I say that I'll have to be sedated if we go from 2 La Jolla Country Day grads to another. I was actually just complaining because, their women's coach at La Jolla Country Day, her name is T-Bam, is what I call her, and I waited for 2 long, hard seasons of losing, mind you, for T-Bam to be in McHale Center. I didn't get to see it, and so I'm just praying I get another La Jolla Country Day school kid up in there, so I get T-Bam in the squad, has Erika addressed Flo leaving? You guys just want me to be sad on this show. I don't come on this show to be heartbroken. I came over on this show to be positive about the women's basketball team. Listen, I'm excited for Flo to go somewhere where hopefully he has a good home that accepts him for who he truly, truly is. Wherever that is.
Heem Jones?
Hemathy. Listen, that's my guy, okay? And so I hope he goes somewhere where he can play all the minutes, both sides of the ball. Travis Hunter, my guy, you know what I mean?
Whoa.
So,
all right. On that note, we gotta.
Excessive.
Yeah, you just called Justin Flo Travis Hunter.
No, I just mean Travis Hunter him and that. Let him play wherever he wants. Let him.
I know.
Really run out.
I know.
Okay, if he's going to who cares if he does that for Texas Tech? Nobody, you know. So let him go do whatever he wants to do. That's what I think, you know. Send him somewhere where they don't have a good football team and just let him run free, you know. He's the solution to any team's culture issue.
You sound like you're talking about a horse. You're just like he's been stuck in this stable for too long. We just gotta let him run free.
Yeah.
Go on, boy.
Let him go. If they don't want him that bad, someone will. I know it. And like I said, if you have a culture issue in your locker room, I know who you can call. Mr.
Call him.
Timothy.
Call him.
Right. You know, it's an easy solution to your issue.
That's
And
great.
he'll make your media day photos about 150 times better. So, you know, it's a solution to many of your issues. So get a good school, call my guy Flo, okay? I'm going to start the position after this to make sure he goes to a good home. If he goes to a bad home, I'm going to be really hard to deal with for a few days.
Well, that has been Erika Day. I have been Kevin Thomas. We are the AZ Wildcats podcast here today. Follow us on Twitter at PHNX_Wildcats. Follow me at Kevo Post. Erika, where can they find you doing all your stuff?
You can find me over on Twitter at Erika Lee Day and over on this exact YouTube channel doing the PHNX_Mercury podcast. If you haven't watched it, what the heck are you doing? Training camp starts on Monday.
Monday.
Actually,
Check out
Sunday.
That's even better. Sunday. Training camp starts for the WNBA there on Sunday. Like I said, she has been Erika Day. I have been Kevin Thomas. We've been the AZ Wildcats podcast. We will catch you again on Monday. It has been an awesome week. We welcome back Damon on Wednesday. So still 2 more shows without the dog. But we get him back on Wednesday. Very excited to have Damon back next week.
Is he going to be wearing a Panthers jersey?
Ooh, do they even... They probably do. Hawaii's probably the first place to get
Right.
T-Mac Panthers jerseys. So
Oh my gosh, was he at the watch party with his family? Damon was in the place to be.
Yeah, Damon was, ironically. I mean, Hawaii's it's a bigger place than I think we're giving it credit for. But anyway, like I said, as Nick says, goodbye, Shane. Goodbye to all of you in the chat. I appreciate each and every one of you for tapping in with me this week. I know it's been a crazy week with the NFL draft going on and T-Mac going off and Damon going off to Hawaii. So I appreciate all of you tuning in with me, with Erika today, with Saul yesterday, with Spears the day before. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please leave a like, leave a comment, and as always, bear down and go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.